here. Okay, well what this is going to be, it's called mock dovetails. They're not real dovetails, but it'll give the impression that they'll look like it. I'll show you when it's done why it's actually called a mock dovetail. But let me show you how I did this. What I got here is a jig. It's actually pretty simple. Even you could do a jig. Not that kind of jig. No, this jig is just a couple of boards that go around my fence. And so they're set up with these cleats to make 90 degrees. See? 90 degrees. So when I push the box through, it'll make the groove. When you push the box through, it'll make the groove. When you push the box through, it'll make the groove. Oh, by the way, in case I didn't tell you, you have to use a dovetail router bit to make this groove. Sure. I have the dovetail bit still in there. Didn't change the height. No. All I did was put an auxiliary fence on. Okay? Now I got another block of wood. In this case, I just happen to have some black walnut. Just happened. So, I'm going to push it through, and I got the dovetail bit just barely sticking out past, just exposed just a little bit past this fence. And I'm going to run it through on 2 passes, creating this, like, wedge. And then we're going to try it and fit it in our box. Now, you probably won't get it on the first try. You're probably going to have to do it a couple of times. It'll be too tight or too loose. But, yeah, make sure you got enough scrap. Okay? Okay, after you made your dovetail, I just ripped it thinner on the bandsaw. And then what I'm going to do is I marked off with pencil, and I'm going to make teeny tiny bites. So here's what we're doing. We're taking our little mock dovetail, and you're going to put some glue in there, and then you're just going to slide the piece on in, and we're going to let it dry. Then we'll cut off those tabs. Now with our dovetail pieces in there, a little bit too long, so we're going to cut them off. We're going to cut them off flush with the side of the box. And we'll do this to both sides, all the way around the box. Here's the answer to the question, why are these mock dovetails? This is the box we build on top, and this is a box on the bottom. These are full through dovetails. Now, they kind of semi-resemble dovetails. See, we have the wider tail here. We got the tail. We have a pin. We have the pin. Now, as we swing these boxes around, see what changes here? See how this changes in shape and size, where this one did not. Okay? So, it's not a full through dovetail. That's why it's called mock, because from one side, it fools you. Hey! Now we're ready to put the bottom of the box in. Come on, let's go. The bottom of this box couldn't be any easier. I just merely cut a blank out an inch larger both directions than what our box is. And then I ran an OG groove all the way around it. I got the OG style router bit in here, and I'm just going to route all 4 edges of my bottom piece, starting with the end grain first. fasten the bottom of the box to the top, we're going to put screws through the bottom. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I do. You're saying, Chad, well, if I get it all lined up on top and then flip it over, you know, I might not have it in the same place from where my measurements were. I'll show you another little tip on this. What I like to do is I eyeball it from the top, and I try and keep my gaps, you know, consistent all the way around. And then, so it doesn't move, I'll take a little bit of hot glue, squish, as I bump it, and I'll put it on all four corners. Let it cool, flip it over, screw it, and then you just pick off the glue. The other great thing about hot glue gun is you can pretend you got a big old booger. Hey, look, I got a big old boogie. To make sure our screw goes right in the middle to the side of our box, I take my combination square and I set it from the edge of the bottom to the edge of the side. Now, I bring it up here and make that mark. And I know the sides of my box are 3/4 of an inch thick, so I'll make another mark here, which is 3/4 of an inch. And then I just drill, and I use a chamfer bit for the screw, and then drive it home. At this point in the game, we're ready for our top or lid for the box. Now for this particular job, I'm actually going to make a carved cowboy for my lid. Yeehaw! Now you can learn how to do the carving from one of my other videos. But it brings me to another question that makes me stop and think. In England, they actually call a hat a lid. So it makes you wonder, what do they call the top of a box in England? Things that make you go, Now some might ask how it is I actually get my drawing onto the wood. Do I draw it on the wood first? No. What I do first is I put it on paper. This way if I make any mistakes, I can easily erase them or change it or whatever, you know. So then, on the back of the paper, I'll shade it with some heavy lead. Then, I'll tape the paper to the piece that I'm going to do, trace over it. When you lift it off, it'll leave the impression of the lead onto the wood. Then I'll start carving.
Hey, fellow shopperoos, we've run out of time, but come back to woodshoppingtime.com.